Is this live? Are we live, Quincy?
We are live, Chris.
Are we live, John?
You're live, bro.
Fantastic. My first time on Facebook. I'm excited.
Calm down. Got to introduce you.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. Hi, Chris.
Hi,
Okay. All right. So I'm Quincy. This is John. This is Chris Keelty from Lawyers Express Title and I always get confused. HWK or HKW?
HWK Law Group.
HWK Law Group. So today we're going to talk about what happens during the title process when you buy or sell a house. All right. So.
And what is title?
And what is title? We're going to ask Chris.
Well, you're going out of order in the questions that you've previously written down.
We'll
So,
get there. Calm down, buddy.
So what is title? Title are your rights to a property. Basically, they described it in law school, which comes in handy when you're doing title work. It's a title to a property is a bundle of rights. A couple hundred years ago, what it used to be is when you got title to a property, they'd hand you a clump of grass and say, you own this field. Now it's a deed, and in that deed it describes the property description. It'll say from the oak tree to the big rock to the other oak tree to another big rock and back to the oak tree. So title is really a bundle of rights, and other people have rights to that property as well. So BGE, your water, mortgage company, other easements for maybe a shared driveway, which become problematic if you don't know about it. Or if you don't have a shared driveway agreement, but that is really title. You have an equitable and legal right to access the property, pursuant to a deed and the description in the deed and anybody else's rights to that property.
So when someone's buying or selling a house, what's like the 1 minute quick process you guys are doing?
We get the contract from the realtor, or if it's a refinance, we get it from the lender primary, and we'll get it. We enter in the information. We take a look at the deed. We take a look at the taxes. We take a look at the tax identification numbers. We see if there's any judgments. We submit it to what's called an abstractor, someone in the courthouse who does a lot of that secondary work for us. Gives us basically a sheet that shows what affects the title, whether it's BGE, whether it's a water easement. So some properties have water lines that are to their house that another company has to be paid for them to be able to access that water, not just Baltimore City or Anne Arundel County or PG County. We then take the legal descriptions, retype them because that's the way it goes now. Hopefully in the future it'll be a little bit different. We send out letters to all the parties to see if there's anything that we're missing. We want to know the commissions because we want to make sure that the realtors get paid for the hard work that they do.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It is nice when you pay us.
We do.
Yeah.
It is nice. We want to know what the loan terms are. We want to know what the sellers, where they are, if they're out of state, because if they're out of state, then we want to at least advise them that they might be subject to what's called withholding in the state of Maryland. We then take all that information, condense it, and when settlement comes up, we put all that into a spreadsheet and we make sure the parties get what they bargained for. So we take a look at the contract. If the price was $100,000, we want to make sure that the seller gets their $100,000 less what other fees are included. So we then record.
Aren't you? You're the ones that disperse. So like a lot of misconception is, as a lender's perspective, is clients will be like, "Hey, John, when do I wire the funds to you?" So a title company is somebody that is like the middleman, middle woman, middle person in the transaction.
Yes.
So disperses everything, right?
Correct. So we act as the escrow agent. We get escrow instructions from several different people. Sometimes it's from the buyer and the seller, pursuant to the contract of sale, or it's pursuant to escrow instructions from the lender that says you need to be in a position to disperse and record a deed which vests title into the buyer, and the deed of trust or mortgage which puts the lender in a position to be able to recoup the money if it's not paid pursuant to the note. So basically what we're doing is ensuring the transaction, and the reason you want to hire a title company that is run by attorneys is because we're held to a higher standard. Even though we're not acting as attorneys for the buyer or the seller unless we are engaged, we are held to the higher standard of ethics that is in the rules of professional conduct. So some title companies, aren't really held to that standard. But when we are dealing with people we need to deal fairly, equitably, and ethically. So we're really ensuring the transaction, making sure that people get what they bargained for, making sure that the liens are paid off, taking people's money, because that's really what we're doing, is we're holding people's money.
You're
It's
taking
not
people's
our,
money?
We're holding it. We are taking it, but we're holding their money and then we distribute pursuant to those escrow agreements. You know, we pay the realtors, we pay the mortgage off, pay the water bills, which I know Quincy wanted to bring up because
We'll
it's
talk about that at the end.
happened a couple times.
So, John, this is more of a question, I guess, for John and I. So, what, in our experience, in our dealings, what do you think makes a good title company?
I mean, I think it's the same thing that makes a good lender and a good realtor is communication. And, you know, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes in terms of the, what goes on with, you know, real estate in terms of the realtor communicating about a water bill or change of the purchase contract, and a lender's communicating our end of things. So it's really just being there and having enough staff and
Right. Yeah,
having
definitely.
enough communication. That's on my end. What do you think, Quincy?
I mean, I totally agree with having the staff, especially in the thick of things in the spring.
Yep.
When you're throwing a lot of deals, you know, their way, have enough people to process all those contracts.
Yep.
I think one of the most important things is choosing a title company that's local to the area
Absolutely.
that you are buying a house in. You know, each area has their unique things. Like Baltimore has ground rent, so if you're using a title company that's nowhere near Baltimore and they have no idea about ground rent, you could have issues. So I think staying local is always better.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for, you know, agents as well as
Sure.
lenders,
Yeah,
because
across the board.
the other day we got a question about ground rents. The lender was out of state and didn't know what a ground rent was, and it killed the deal for a couple weeks. And the same with the agent. If the agent's, you know, a agent from Redfin or wherever,
Right.
they might not understand the locality, the intricacies of the local area. You know, in Baltimore City, that's, you know, there are a lot of ground rents. There's ground rent problems. There's tax sales and tax sale issues, and so you want to have a great team and make sure that that's one of the ways to make sure that the process does go smoothly.
Yeah, and I mean, again, so whenever I explain title to buyers, I always explain, like, the title company's researching the liens.
Mhm.
The simplest way, researching the liens, meaning that if I'm buying Quincy's house, they're making sure all the liens that Quincy has in terms of the mortgage and maybe a water bill or anything like that is paid off, and I'm buying a house that's pretty much free and clear, other than what my mortgage company is slapping onto it, and then
'Cause
they're
we like to
reporting
slap
that to you.
on,
That's
yes.
right. And when we're you know, buying the house, we're buying that house and they're insuring the transaction. And then title insurance is another thing that most people have a question about.
Oh,
Yeah.
it comes up. So, what is title insurance?
So the basic premise is to make sure, we're ensuring that you get what you bargained for,
Gotcha.
subject to ordinary encumbrances and easements in that area. So for instance, when you buy a house, you want to make sure that you're getting that plot of land that you've asked for,
Mhm.
that you've bargained for, subject to maybe a BGE easement or a driveway easement like we discussed. Or a water and sewer facility declaration, which requires a payment. You want to make sure that there's no judgments that would affect the property or other mortgages that would affect the property. People say, well, you know, so-and-so's owned the property for 100 years, why do I need to worry about that? Well, because it might have been transferred down the line pursuant to maybe an estate. Maybe that estate wasn't done correctly. Maybe someone had an issue with title that no one knew about. And the statute of limitations on title claims is different depending on the situation. Also, there's what's called the gap. So between the time, and we have seen this several times, between the time you settle and the time that the deed gets recorded, someone could go bankrupt and a lien could get attached to that property, because in Maryland we're a race notice state. And people make mistakes. We've seen it where we had a client, he bought a property in a subdivision 20 years ago, and the mortgage was never released. The bank came back to him and said, you owe us, you know, I think it was $3 million. It wasn't 20 years ago, it was like 5 years before. And he came to us and said, what do we do? And we were not the title company who did the research on title and insured the transaction, but we assisted him in making his claim, getting that other lender paid off so that he could move forward with his house.
But title insurance for layman's terms, is not
Making sure.
it's not a fee that you need to reincur. Like,
No.
it's
It's
a
a one-time,
it's
yeah.
a one-time
one-time fee.
lump payment at the time of closing,
Correct.
and it will cover you
For the life of, as long as you own the property.
from any previous liens. So a lot of the business that we do, you know, in Maryland is you're buying not necessarily new construction homes, even though that issue can come up on new construction homes. You're buying
Definitely can, yeah.
Mechanics
Yeah.
liens come up in construction homes.
Exactly. So, but you're buying typically a 110-year-old house, maybe in Baltimore City, or a 25-year-old house, 30-year-old house in Baltimore County. You know, there could be a lien, and title insurance will prevent you and protect you, right?
And prevent you from losing the house.
Yes.
Correct.
And I know I personally, when I sold my last townhouse,
Mhm.
there was an issue that came with the original builder, and I had title insurance, luckily.
And it protected you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only reason the sale went
So-
through. Yeah.
That's great.
So, all right. So, last question, Chris.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know this. So, water, city, county. I feel like wherever you are is kind of nuts. You guys, I feel like, always get the short end of the stick on the water bills.
Yeah, and
So-
at every settlement I say water is the bane of my
Yeah,
existence.
so give us some advice. Give us
So,
a lowdown.
It used, yeah, so water is a,
without cussing.
I can't
You cannot
cuss. So water bills in the city have switched over to a monthly billing cycle. In the county, Baltimore City still runs the water, but they're still on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
What we do, we've tried different ways to make sure that the water bills get prorated correctly. What we do is we take the water bill, we prorate it based on past usage, and put that on the settlement sheet. So if the seller owed, $50 for the past, couple of weeks, we'll put that on the bill. We pay the city that amount with a statement that says who the new owner is. Frequently, though, we will not know, and neither will the city, if there's a line break or a leak. And it comes up frequently because the city's pipes are old, some of the county pipes are old. So it might take a cycle or two for anybody to figure out if there's a leak. We've tried escrows, but sometimes the escrows are not enough to cover the water bill.
And how long can you really hold an escrow too?
Yeah, people don't want, once a month's gone by and you settled, people want their money back.
Right.
So what we've done is we have agreements in place that both the buyer and the seller sign that says, we're prorating the bill on past usage. If there's any discrepancy, we're all going to come together and work it out.
Got it.
Because they're usually low dollar, high annoyance.
Sure.
It's, water bills in the city are, $50 a quarter. Used to be, I think they're like $30. Now they've raised the prices per month. But now it's $30 per month. I think it was like $50 to $60 a quarter, depending on the house. That's what it is in the county, at least.
You guys are lucky.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So,
Well, I think that's it, right?
I think it is.
All right. So I think next week we're going to move our time next week. Did you get that notice?
I did not.
Yeah. John's on vacation next week, so we can't do our not next week. 2 weeks from now. I'm on vacation.
You're on
I'm on
vacation. I'm not on vacation.
I know. I just like.
I'm always working.
Quincy's always on vacation.
Right. Anyway, so we're gonna move the time to Wednesday, but we're gonna continue the theme of having another guest. So we're gonna have Jordan Bird from Brick Hicker.
Yep.
He's a home inspector. So we'll have somebody else join us. All right. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.